Hello everyone, onlydraven here again. Thanks for tuning in this week. This week's going to be a short one, and I mean it this time. We got a couple things I'd like to talk about, so we're going to get right into it. Thank you again, everyone who's tuning in and everyone who's been watching from week to week. Thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing my posts on my social media pages and here as well. I would like to announce that my first Patreon goal has finally actually happened. I released my website a couple of days ago. So if you'd like to go and see my new website, it's real basic so far. I just got it started, but it is listed here, www.onlydraven.com. This will be kind of a central hub. I'll post the videos that I post here as well as upcoming things that I'm doing. It'll be a central source for all my different videos, kind of broken down by the themes. I'll also have questionnaires on there. There's a place you can put in feedback, or if you want to ask a question, or you have a comment or a suggestion. I've also got I'm going to put my progress photos. I'm going to continue taking one every month and continue to post them on there as well. So you can go on there and you can see all my photos, both looking forward and a profile pic of my progress since I started this whole process back in December of 2016. So I'll continue to do that every month, and you can go on there and kind of follow along with the physical changes I've been going through. But other than the website, that's my big announcement. We're going to move right into our weekly check-in, and then we're going to talk about the theme that's kind of the title for this, and that's living with a fat mentality. So we'll move into that in a moment. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so in this week's weekly check-in, just a brief one this week. Things went well. I had a good week, better week than last week. I'd like to start off by any of you who noticed last week when I put up my weight loss, I said I'd lost 2 pounds and that I was down 135. This week I'm down 4 more pounds. I'd say that I miscounted last week. I was actually down, let me see. No, that's right, 135. I'm sorry, yeah, it was 135. Lost 4 pounds this week, which is great. It's double what I lost last week, which puts me down 139. So total, I'm currently at 292 pounds. If you've not seen my videos before, you may not know that the original goal set for by my doctor when I first started this process was to get me down to about 225. Secretly, I'd like to get to 200, but 225 is where he recommended I get to, or where we're shooting for. That being said, I'm not that far from that. Like, I still am a big dude. I got a lot of weight to lose, but we really don't have that much far to go considering how much we've already lost. I mean, I'm at 290 something now. I want to go to 220 something. I mean, I'm looking at less than 70 pounds less to lose. That's what, barely almost half of what I've already lost. Now, again, anyone who's lost weight will tell you, you know, the more weight you lose, the smaller you are, the harder it is to lose that weight. The percentage that you lose is going to drop. So I know that that number, that 3 and 4 pounds a week, is eventually going to drop down to 1 and 2, and there'll be some weeks where I won't lose any. But right now I'm just hanging on for the ride. I'm maintaining an average of 2 to 4 pounds lost a week. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but I've been losing pretty much every week but 1 week since I had the surgery. So that's awesome. I think that's really good. It's going along really well. The only real physical changes that I've noticed recently, I've talked about it a little bit in the past. Sorry, I keep touching my face here. I'm a little itchy today. I'll talk about that in a second. The only real physical changes that I've had is where we start talking about excess skin. And I've touched on it in the past. I said I've seen a little bit on my arms. I can say that I am starting to notice more of it now. There are a couple spots on my body, inner thighs being the best example, where I've lost just an ass ton of weight, and it is definitely noticeable that there's some excess skin there. I have not been able to get to the gym the past week or so as I've been hoping. We've had a lot going on here at home. My wife has not been feeling well. We have a sick guinea pig that we've been dealing with, and just a bunch of automobile had a huge baseball-sized ass rock hit my windshield a couple days ago and bust it. So that's $300 and some, and I'm gonna have to pay to replace a windshield next month. So I've just had a lot going on this week. I've unfortunately just not been able to get to the gym. So I know that that's not helping. I mean, I could sit and make all the excuses in the world, but really I have to find the time to go. So that's on me. I mean, all the stuff in the world happens, but I know there's been times when I've just been sitting at home playing a video game or watching a show where I could have been at the gym. So while it has eliminated some of the days where I just didn't have time, there's probably other times I could have. So excuses aside, I just have not been getting to the gym as much as I should the past week and a half. So definitely something I need to improve, because I'm only 2 weeks away today from my 4-month checkup since the surgery. At that point, if all goes well, I should be moving to phase 4 of the diet, which is the final stage, which is the stage I'll be on forever. Increase what I can eat. It'll add the rest of the red meats. Pretty much at that point, there's really no limitations on what I can and can't eat, although I need to avoid like the deep fried foods, greasy foods, fattening foods, because my stomach will have a problem with those. I'll have to really cut down on things like breads and things of that, because I have to keep my carbs still within their level. And I'm sure my protein goals will shoot up. Speaking of bread, this morning I experienced probably my first real craving since the surgery. I got up to have breakfast, and I didn't really have much left to eat. It's grocery day here in a day or so. And I don't know, just at that moment, I wanted a piece of toast. I'd have kicked a baby to get a piece of toast. Somebody had some toast there. I would have done horrible things to have a piece of just buttered, warm toast this morning. I haven't had bread in almost 4 months. Longer, technically, because the month before the surgery, there was the liquid diet, and before that, there was the 800-calorie diet where I only ate the prepackaged meals that I purchased through my surgeon's office. There was really no bread in there. There was some kind of chip-like things, but no real bread. So I haven't had bread in almost 5 months, really, at this point, if not longer. So, piece of toast would have been amazing today. But I have done my very best to stick to every single rule and guideline I have been given. So as much as I would love a piece of toast, I have not had one. I'm going to wait 2 weeks, hopefully. Then maybe I could find some low-carb bread that will allow me to have a piece of toast. But until they give me the thumbs up, I'm avoiding it. But man, toast would have been tasty today. So I've just been maintaining, sticking with the diet, slacking a bit on the weight, on the exercise. And well, I'm still losing weight. It doesn't help with toning, doesn't help with the loose skin, the excess skin. So I really need to get back on that. But I am seeing the excess skin in some locations now. A little bit on my stomach. Even I've noticed a little bit of loss, a little bit on the sides of my stomach now. And so it's, if you will, it's, from my earlier picture, you'll notice it's very smooth. Fat, huge fat, but smooth. And now it's more, like cottage cheese in a balloon kind of looking thing. It's really repugnant, but it's lumpy. I'm smaller, but it's because I'm losing it in pieces and in areas. So I am seeing that notice in there. So it's something to expect should you have the surgery. But that's really all I have to talk about for the diet side of the check-in this week. So overall, good week. 4 pounds down. Which puts me down, as I said, 139. One away from 140, which is awesome. 150 is going to be a great benchmark. Looking forward to that. So we'll move on to our next segment and kind of talk about mentality. Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the fat mentality. This topic was actually requested by a friend of mine and someone who follows these videos. Just kind of brainstorming and trying to come up with topics, because it becomes hard to think of topics to talk about sometimes from week to week. I give you guys my little updates and such, but sometimes there's nothing really super exciting, new that I've learned, but I definitely want to try to bring some type of content. So I was asked today about surviving and living with a fat mentality. Fat mentality is definitely something I've had my whole life. For those of you who are a bigger person, who are a food addict, which is what many of us really are, the fat mentality is something you're quite familiar with. But dealing with the fat mentality is very difficult. For those of you who are skinny minis or just don't know what I'm talking about, the fat mentality very often is where food is the first, only, and last thing that you think about. It's one part of it. It's where you wake up in the morning, before you're out of bed, you're already starting to think about what you're going to eat for the day. While you're eating one meal, you're already planning the next one. You're trying to figure out a way to get as much food in as possible. That's one thing that dooms a lot of dieters. People who are dieting are like, oh, I can have these guidelines, and they Weight Watchers and things, or different weight loss programs, and they look at the numbers and the calories, and it's not about even getting the tastiest food. It's trying to get as many foods in their points or in their goals as much as they can, because that mentality is still quantity and convenience, and that's another big thing. As a bigger person, I would much rather go through a drive-through than come home and actually cook something. I love to cook, but I love to, sit on my butt and watch TV or play video games more, obviously by my non-athletic physique. So one part of the fat mentality is just that constant thought of food and the thought of how to get more of it. The other fat mentality is really just the cravings and the tricking yourself into believing you're hungry when you're not. A good example of that, something I've dealt with a lot in my life, and the one thing that hits me, I've mentioned it in the past, when I'm online or something and there'll be a commercial for Pizza Hut or Domino's or any of the pizza chain. Pizza's always been my favorite food, aside from just cheese itself, but pizza is my favorite thing to eat. It's just so much you can do with it. Different crusts, different toppings, different sauces. It's a whole different meal almost every time, I feel, personally. Pizza connoisseur. I've actually worked for almost 13 pizza places in my life, so I've had a lot of hands-on pizza experience. But I'll see a commercial for pizza and I'm like, God, I'm hungry for pizza. But I'm not. I'm not hungry for pizza. I'm almost never hungry at all anymore, since I've had the surgery especially. The section of the stomach they remove is a large part of the area that creates hunger. And I get full quicker, or I get full in general, whereas before I just never felt full. So I see that and I'm like, man, I want pizza, but I'm not hungry. I just miss the taste. I miss the act of eating it, the smell. I mean, pizza's amazing. But I'm not really hungry. But I trick myself into thinking I am. And without the limitation of the surgery, that was a larger problem, because I see a commercial for pizza, I'm like, man, I'm hungry for pizza. It doesn't matter if I just ate an hour ago. I'm hungry for pizza. So I'll order a pizza. Pizza shows up and I eat the pizza. And I won't even be hungry. I'll have a piece, but I'm like, I ordered all this pizza. I can't just let it sit here, so I eat it. I finish my plate. I've talked about it before. I always finish my plate. So the fat mentality will cause you to eat when you're not even hungry, or trick you into thinking you're hungry. And it's not easy, because you honestly think you're hungry at that moment. Even though you feel like you've eaten so much you're going to vomit. You think you're hungry. So dealing with the fat mentality is not easy. It becomes part of who we are. It's part of our life. So, a couple tips that I have used, things I've used to try to deal with that. I'm going to kind of share those with you. There's only a couple, but things that you might find helpful. Many of them you may even know without realizing it. But number one is, of course, recognizing that you have that problem. Like any form of addiction, you have to realize and accept the fact that you have that issue before you can ever hope to fix it. If you're at a point where you feel you need to diet, and I'm not talking about I put on 5 pounds, I want to lose 5 pounds, and that's legit. You have your issues, definitely you want to do that. That's really fine. But I mean, if you reach that point, you're like, I am at a point where I'm unhealthy and I genuinely need to diet. With the few exceptions of those rare people who actually have a medical condition that causes that, it's because we have a fat mentality. It's because we're eating too much. We're eating too much, we're eating the wrong thing, we're eating for taste instead of for nutrition. And so you have to be willing to accept that you have that problem, and before you can begin to address it. So looking for those signs. Am I eating when I'm not hungry? How often am I eating? Do I find myself eating because I see other people eating? Or am I eating because I saw a commercial for food, or I saw an ad for food, or someone mentioned food? Am I eating because I truly need to eat, or am I just eating because I don't have anything else to do? Boredom is the dieter's enemy right there. It will trick you into eating, trick you hungry because you don't have anything else to do. So staying busy, that's number two. Finding other things to focus your time on. For me, a lot of that is video gaming. I play computer games. I play computer games badly. I am not good at video games. I've recently come to this revelation as well. I'm really bad. You put me in a solo game where it's just like building stuff or coming up with cool ideas, I can do that. But if there's any form of competition, I'm horrible. I'm in last place every time. I just don't do well. It just doesn't click for me like it does some people. I have fun with the game and I want to play it, but I just like the control schemes and getting good. That doesn't click for me. So I have a lot of mobile games that I play because, again, they're solo games. They're not competitive. It's things I can just get in, master the math behind it or the science or the technique. That I can do. So having a game that I can click on when I wake up in the morning, instead of immediately start thinking about my meal, I think about, oh, my game. I got to jump on that and get that done. A new hobby that my wife and I have just started taking on this past week is we are collecting comic books now. I was a huge comic book buff when I was in high school. And, you know, late bloomer. At the end of high school, I got interested in girls, so I faded away from comics, sold them all, and used the money to take girls on dates. So now that I'm older in life, I got a lot of free time, and I'm not that good at video games, trying to find something else to do. I've always enjoyed reading. And I love superheroes. I love superhero movies. So this past weekend, my wife and I went to a comic shop, spent a few hours browsing, grabbing just some dollar comics, and we really had a good time. In fact, we're planning on going out this weekend and hitting a couple other comic shops in my town that we've not been to yet. So, you know, I'm excited about that. You know, instead of on my lunch break, instead of I can't wait to go and eat, it's more of a I need to get my food done so I can jump online and browse eBay for comic books, you know. And you have to be careful when you fill your time or when you replace that need for eating, because you don't want to trade one addiction for another. And that's tip number 3. You have to make sure that you are regulating yourself. We have a void when we're not eating. It's a space that just needs to be filled. You know, food becomes such an important part of our life and such a primary focus that if that's taken away, depression, sadness, anger, emotions can kick in. And so finding something to replace that desire for with, that addiction for food, is great, but can end up just being just as bad. You definitely don't want to replace it with like alcohol, drugs, and shit like that. But even comic books, I got to make sure I don't blow my rent money on comics, you know? I got to make sure I'm still doing my job. I can't get fired because I'm playing on my phone looking at comic books instead of doing my job. So be careful, you know, and try not to put all your eggs in one basket. That'd be the other thing. Don't have just one thing that becomes your new focus, because something happens and it goes away. Maybe they discontinue the thing you collect. Maybe the hobby you have is no longer available in your area. And now you're stuck. You fall back on food. You don't want that. You don't want food to always be your fallback. So diversify your time. You know, come up with several different hobbies. For me, it's gaming, comic books, the phone games, certain television shows I watch with my wife. The Voice, because Blake Shelton's probably the funniest dude alive. Not even a country music fan, really, too much. I like some, but Blake Shelton's hilarious. And I'll watch that dude in just about anything. So, you know, finding different ways to occupy yourself and be social, you know, that's another one. Get out there and try to involve people whenever possible. Even if it's just people on the internet. Video gaming with people, you know, find a way to, instead of sitting and think about food, let your mind be occupied on conversation, learning things, just talking, joking around, having fun. You know, the more time you think about food, the harder it's going to be. So filling that void with something more interactive, potentially more social, and hopefully not bank breaking, will help you get through that fat mentality. So, you know, recognize that you have the issue. Try to find other things to fill that time. Don't let it control you the way food was. And these are some things that you definitely want to keep an eye on. I think there was another one I said in there I've already forgotten. But I just want to talk about fat mentality. I mean, if you are someone who struggles with that, and many of us are, you know, let's talk about it. Throw some comments in the video. If you're not comfortable talking about it in public, shoot me a message. You can shoot me an email on my website. Like I said, down at the bottom of this place, you can put a question, a comment, or something that sends an email to me directly. I'm going to reply to them as soon as I possibly can. So, you know, send me your messages, send me your comments. Let's talk about it. Let me get your feedback. If you'd like me to include your information in a follow-up video to this, I'd be happy to do so. If you'd rather me just post you as anonymous or not mention you at all, I'm fine with that as well. But, you know, talking about a problem, it makes the problem easier to deal with. And talk to me. You know, we may not know each other personally. Some of you, maybe we do. But, you know, message me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I've struggled with it most of my life. I struggle with it every day. You know, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, but having other people you can confide in, people you can trust, and I am happy to be that person for you if that's what you want. You know, if you're looking for someone, you know, maybe you can't talk to your family or your friends or your significant other, maybe you're uncomfortable about it. Talk to a neutral fat guy on the internet. That's me. Talk to my fat ass. I will talk to you about it, and what we talk about is between us. So, you can message me on my website, www.onlydraven.com. You can direct message me on my Facebook or any of my social profiles. All those links to that and my website and my Patreon page are all in the description of this video. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk to you about it. So I think we're going to call that it for the week. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I always say it's going to be a short video, and then I talk forever. So I apologize for lying again. But it's been great hanging out with you. Look forward to talking to you in the future, and we'll see you again next week.